Glad you made it back, everybody. This week on the Chris Salcedo Show, we're examining China and their American allies. In case you forgot, the initial set of classified documents Biden illegally took with him when he left the Obama White House was discovered at the University of Pennsylvania at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement. The Chinese government donated roughly $54.6 million to the university between 2014 and 2020, additional $15 million in contracts and gifts from 2020 to 2022. This raises concerns about the university, the Bidens, and their extensive financial ties to America's enemy, Communist China. For more on this, let's bring in our panel, retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Rob Maness and retired Air Force Brigadier General Combat C-17 Commander, U.S. Deputy Military Rep for NATO, and Newsmax contributor Blaine Holt. Gentlemen, thank you for the service. Welcome. Colonel, begin with you. Many are asking questions about how much damage the leak of classified information caused and whether China benefited from this. We know a damage assessment was never done when Hillary Clinton's illegal server was hacked by at least 5 foreign nations. Should Biden escape a damage assessment? And if he does, what does it say about our so-called intelligence community?
Well, he absolutely should not escape a damage assessment. You know, Chris, this is just another huge indicator that the Chinese Communist Party has infiltrated all of our institutions, from our government, political, academic, all the way down to the level of buying our farmland. And that is why there has to be a damage assessment. Have you noticed that we didn't even see yet have any indication on what these documents are or where they may come from? And when the Trump situation occurred, we had all kinds of stories about what was in the documents and those kind of things. And by the way, Biden's lawyers are being allowed to handle this. It's just another big indicator. The Chinese Communist Party and the Biden family are in bed together. The academic institutions across this country have been infiltrated. If you take a look around and look for something called the Confucius Institute on our academic campuses or nearby them, you will see that. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. And if Americans are mad about this, their heads are going to explode when they find out the truth.
True, true. And all those stories about Trump's classified information ended up being fake news, as it turned in nuclear codes and all that. General, to you, through anti-American policies, both parties have set up a steady stream of money that flows right into China. They have used our dollars in an unprecedented military buildup with technology they steal from us. China, the U.S., China building Democrats and Republicans, funding all this wokeness and weakness in our own fighting forces and weakening our own defense capability, while China strengthens. I don't know how these so-called leaders inside of the military establishment can look themselves in the mirror. How about you?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, I agree with everything Rob said. But let's get to the top level here. We're at war with China. We've been at war with China for a real long time. Their preference for warfare, Chris, is not throwing missiles and bombs at things. Their preference for warfare is what they've been doing to us. Get into our systems, undermine us, support corruption everywhere where it may exist, and start to co-opt and break down our systems of oversight, our systems where we hold those to account who might have colluded with China. This is their plan, and it's going quite well for them so far. The only saving grace is that China is absolutely vaporizing its own economy. Xi fancies himself the new Mao Zedong. He doesn't know anything about economics, and their COVID disaster is absolutely killing thousands, maybe more per day.
Well, communism will always collapse under its own weight. I just hope that we can outlast the Democrats and the corruption of the Republican Party in this country to outlast it. General, I'm going to keep it with you for this next question. At the World Economic Forum today, a Saudi finance minister claims Saudi Arabia can help, quote, bridge the gap between the United States and China. Watch.
Do you see Saudi Arabia as a conduit in terms of speaking to China, speaking to Russia? Because those are difficult conversations for the West.
I would say absolutely yes. We have a very strategic relationship with the U.S. and we have a strategic relationship with China, and we think we can bridge the gap.
Okay, what gap? There is no gap. I don't want to bridge the gap, General. I want to widen it. America needs to decouple from China, do we not?
We do. Saudi Arabia is in an interesting position because they see the two agendas in play. We're a nation that has walked away from our energy independence and in great need right now, a need that Saudi Arabia turned their backs on us on over the summer. And at the same time, you've got these BRIC countries, China leading the gang, that wants to get rid of the petrodollar, get rid of that as the standard form of transaction in the world, and replace it with a consortium of the yuan, the ruble, and others. So the idea that Saudi Arabia can be a fair and balanced broker in anything that goes on between us is kind of farcical in my view. But I do appreciate the man's optimism about diplomatic possibilities with the three countries later on down the line.
Yeah. Optimism. Colonel, last question to you. While China's military is growing stronger, the U.S. military arguably is growing weaker. Communist Chinese train their soldiers to kill civilians without remorse. That's the nature of the enemy that we're dealing with. How much damage has the political military class done to our combat readiness, in your view?
Well, the Chinese Communist Party has made the Department of Defense in the U.S. part of their capture exercise also, in addition to all the other institutions. You know, Milley was famously remarked that he would call his counterpart if President Trump was ever going to attack the Chinese mainland. So the real answer is grave damage, seriously grave damage to the United States, because the only thing that matters now, since we have weakened ourselves by focusing quite a bit too much on the Ukraine situation with Russia, is that we have the strength to deter China from its aggression against places like Taiwan and Japan and South Korea. And that is going to be a problem in the near future if we continue to weaken ourselves. And our leadership in the military, in the senior leadership levels, is the most important factor in that. And we are very weak there right now.